Hey everyone, and welcome back to a brand new Adventures in the Ink. I'm Scott, and joining me as always are Matt and Mike. How are you guys doing?
Doing good.
So, today on this podcast, we're going to be talking about the conclusion of Set 4 of Disney's Lorcana, Ursula's Return, as the set championships have just wrapped up. All of us have had different experience with this set championship as we've all had different roles to fulfill. So let's dive right into it, and we're going to start with Mike. Mike, tell us, what did you do for the set championship of Ursula's Return?
So I just went to one set championship. I played as a competitor at our local store in Milan, and I played Ruby Sapphire Sisu on Ice version.
And what was the name of that local store?
That local store is none other than Adventures in the Ink.
No,
Or Adventure Inc. Wow.
Wow.
I'm just too used to promoting us, like Adventure Inc. Not directly affiliated with, but very closely aligned with Adventures in the Ink podcast.
Yeah, it's gonna be awkward when one of my businesses have to do the other one.
Right. Yeah, it's a really fun store. So I can, I'm not a store owner here, but obviously I know a few of them. But it's a great store. It's very cozy. So we had 24 total slots available. We had 22 that were signed up the day before, but 18 showed up day of. So just a decent size. Yeah, and for me it was fun. I've played in one other set championship before at another store nearby in Ann Arbor, and I did not do as well as I did in this one. So this one, I was very happy. I got in third overall, so I got my Ursula card. And yeah, it definitely felt more prepared this time. I had played enough games. I met Matt a couple times to play just to try to get used to my deck. And yeah, overall, it was a fun experience. A long-ish day. I think we got there at like 9:30, and I stayed till the end just to watch how the final match went, and so we didn't leave till like 6:30. But we had a lunch break and everything else. But overall, it was great. It was great to meet a bunch of new people. There were only 4 people that I think, well, 5 people that were there that I've like had more than just a one sentence conversation with before. So there was like 12 to 13 people that I didn't know or I've never talked to before.
Yeah, I would say out of the 18 people, there were only 5 that played in our event before.
Yep. So it's nice. But we'll talk about it a little bit later. We find out that I was trying to be invitational, invite people like, come on to our store, let's play some more on Fridays. But a lot of people traveled to our store from places you wouldn't want to travel this distance just for a league night. But yeah, I would say overall that's my takeaways. I played against a lot of Bucky decks, or multiple. Played some people twice who were both playing Bucky decks, and it's nerve-wracking. It's great when you win. It feels really crappy, like you couldn't have done anything different when you lose. But overall, it was good. I'm glad I went.
Matt, what's your experience with this set championship?
So, since also we got our kit, not on time, but we got our kit. So I actually got to like be more on the organizing and running side of it than I really apparently at that time. So like I had to show up at like 2 hours before the event to help get the store set up. Very much waiting for my new person to come in and walk the counter so I can actually play in the event. Got you judging, so as I was playing the game, also checking in with you guys, making sure you guys were doing good. And it's also kind of like nervous because like I wanted to play, I wanted to enjoy it, but I also didn't want to like leave you guys high and dry. I also didn't want people to be like, "Oh, hey." So like you're in the tournament and you're playing. Luckily, everyone was super understandable and everyone cool. Like, yeah, like it's obvious you're not walking but you're still helping out. So like, the man to stay behind the counter and to stay away from all the stuff. So, but like I got like no prep the night before, kind of busy prepping for a couple other stuff, and like last minute putting my deck all in retrieved, and so woke up very early, get to the store, do the stuff. So that was a fun experience, and like we did have a lot of people travel, but like a lot of the people that showed up, I played at other tournaments before. At least two of the contestants I played against in Chicago. And a lot of them I've seen at other tournaments. There was one of the girls that played every tournament I have gone to other than Terrain Factory, I have ran into her. So it's kind of funny that we're always like, it's a nice how small the community is, that when you go to all these events and stuff, you're running into the same people.
Mm-hmm. Scott, how about you? What was your experience like?
Mine was, I got to judge the store championship. And that was an interesting thing in of itself. I, like Matt, was getting very little sleep the night before, but I think mine was just from just straight up nerves. Because I was like, how is this going to go? Am I going to have issues? Do I think I'm prepared for this? Even though I knew I was prepared for it, wasn't prepared for it. But judging the actual championship went smoother than I thought it was going to go. There was not very many hiccups at all. The biggest hiccup we had was just getting the program to run properly on the computer. But otherwise, the tournament ran very smoothly. I did not spend a lot of time talking to the players and getting to know them. And I think that just comes from me trying to stay more objective and while being the official tournament judge. So I'm more interested in hearing about your guys' interactions than anything else, because during the tournament, I was focused almost entirely on the cards being played.
So, real quick, since I forgot to talk about my other tournament I went to, because I did go the 1 week after. So I had a very crazy week because, like, after we wrapped up our tournament, got out like 6:30, and then I still had to like clean up, close down the doors. I ended up not getting home till like a little bit after 7. And I live like 2 blocks from the door. So I then immediately had to pack, go on a flight at like 5 a.m., go to California. I get back to California on Friday. My flight was supposed to come back at 12:30 a.m. It got delayed with all the craziness that happened, so I ended up not getting home till 3:30. I then had to wake up at 8 a.m. to go to my other Lorcana Championship tournament. I was supposed to have a little bit more of a buffer, and the California trip was a little bit last minute due to family stuff. So I managed to roll out of bed, get to the tournament, and like my first 2 matches, 2 pertupples for it. I ended up placing 6th at that event, but that was also an 18-person tournament because it was the same weekend at the Texas. So a lot of local people went to the Texas challenge event. So I definitely feel like making sure to not schedule these for a challenge event weekend is really going to help these events.
Yeah, which was interesting because they moved it from just having it that 1 or 2 weekends, but any day during the week, to having it. You have to be Saturday or Sunday for these set championships.
I like that better.
Yeah.
I feel like that give players the better opportunity, and they're good and bad to that. But also, I would like to point out, Brian, who got second place at all tournaments, also got second place at Terrain Factory.
Do you want to say what kind of deck he was playing?
Oh, he was playing Bucky.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, so at the Adventure Inc. one, first and second place were playing different variations of Bucky.
Yeah.
It was definitely fun watching that final mirror match.
Yeah. lots of like who's gonna get the kind of nuts draw. I guess you can call it the nuts draw because it's Bucky squirrels, right? You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what deck won Terrain Factory. I never got a chance to ask Brian what deck he played against.
Mm-hmm. Well, good for him. He's got 2 Ursula playmats. If he stops by, Brian, if you're listening, pick up your playmat.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a shame if it got abandoned at the top.
Yeah. Was there any differences, Matt, that you saw between Sylvan Factory and the one at ours at Adventure Inc.?
They had donut, and that cooking that I would thinking about maybe trying to do, but because we had
snacks. We did have snacks.
we did have snacks. I really appreciate that we got donated. So I really appreciate that. But due to a lot of other chaos and stuff, and also it's not a good local donut spot, I would probably have to spend like about an hour and 20 minutes for me to do like a round trip so as to get decent donuts.
Yeah. Fair enough. Okay. So donuts, main issue.
Okay, so now that we've talked about our individual experiences, and you guys have more experience competing in championships, is there anything you would change as a player?
So yeah, from a player perspective, I knew that certain decks were going to be a problem for me, and I didn't practice against them. So I think I should have just built the deck and been like, Matt, play this deck. Here's the opening line, and I have to figure out what to do, even if I'm not going to have a winning matchup against it. So for me, it was, I mean, Bucky was difficult, but I say I went over 50% against the Bucky decks. And I got lucky that I got 3rd place because of any of one of my matches, there was I think 4 or 5 Ruby Amethysts that were there, and I was not prepared for that matchup. And the one matchup that I did have that was Ruby Amethyst, I just got schooled. Maybe like 2 misplays, but I think if I did this again and I knew, like I had a hunch going in, people are going to be carrying Ruby Amethyst and trying to, do really well with the current meta. And so I probably would have built that deck and said, Matt, start with this opening hand. I'll start with this opening hand. And let's just try to play it out and figure out what do I need to do to just, up my percentage from 40 to 45%.
Yeah. And like that's kind of the boat I was into. Like having more play against the Bucky deal would have probably helped me because I went home Friday night, found a deck with on the internet. I'm like, that looked really fun. Let me make a couple of tweaks to it. I played like 3 games with it and then went into the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
So Matt needs longer time to practice.
Yeah.
I think that's like tip number 3 that we had on our, what to do on our last video about set championships.
Well, it's just like I was like most of this that I've been playing Bucky's Tale, and I just wanted to play cooking different. Like I knew, like if I really wanted to win, Bucky's Tale would have been the way to go.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to prepare for I'm was looking for what deck do I want to bring to the challenge event in Toronto. So I'm like, when we thought, and I found the deck, I'm like, okay, I think the deck would do very well. And so I was giving it a try.
Yeah. One other thing I would do that I should have done is get contact information from people that were going to go to Toronto. And I'm sure I could probably figure out a way to send messages somehow. But I think just like saying, hey, you're going to Toronto, do you want to do any webcam games or anything else to prepare? Or just, start those conversations, build those connections, even if, as we'll talk about later, some of them were, more than an hour away from our shop, so it would be harder to meet in person. I think building those relationships would be great. So
what we could do is we could, I've been thinking about it, maybe that's starting a Discord podcast anyway, but starting a Lorcana specific Discord for people we play with to do that stuff. I am one of the Toledo people gave me the contact, mostly because I can get them to apply, what I just mentioned because we alluded to a couple of times, So we had our tournament on Sunday. All Pride kits showed up Monday. So we had to run our tournament without the kit because of all tipping the rate mixed up.
I was gonna say though, it wasn't anything the store did. That was even
Yeah.
Ravensburger came out and said it was on their end.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the hard part was we had it on the second weekend, and so I think most people thought, oh, this would be resolved by the first weekend, and no, shipping delays push everything around.
No, they called it on third day, saying that like, hey, it's on its way. It's leaving New York today. And we're like, oh, okay.
What can I do?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Worked out. You got the
Yeah.
cards, got them out.
Yeah.
Yeah, Matt, anything else you would have changed?
I would have got more creep. Now that I got more Nick trained up to actually run the tour by himself, I would probably just not even show up until like the time of the event. Like I would have set up the whole event the night before, and then to get some brief, and then just have Nick open the door, and just make it 100%. This is my day off. I'm not touching anything.
Mm-hmm. And
I was glad that you opened it up early, though, that I could get there early and just mentally prepare myself, see the layout, see everything set up, and run through it in my head before anyone else was in that store.
Yeah.
That helped me a lot.
Scott, I have to say you did a great job judging. I mean, there were a couple judge calls that I would have got wrong. I'm pretty sure you double checked, got right, and then players followed up with you, and you had the entire rule book printed out, and you're like, "Here's what it is."
I am very glad I had that rule book printed out. I had it right in front of me. There was only 2 calls I had to make through the entire tournament. One was a judgment call on how cards interacted with each other, and one was a disciplinary call. I will say the disciplinary call is what I was more afraid of having to do. But having that rule book, that rule book, the guide to exactly like if this is what happens, this is what you do. It was very cut and dry, very right there in black and white, and it helped so much just having that right there in front of me.
Speaking of that, I feel like we talk about that. I think that was kind of an interesting experience.
Mm-hmm.
It was. I will say, so what, for those that don't know, what it was we had a player who was playing his decks, everything's going great, and then I believe it was the 3rd round, it might have been the 4th round, he realized he had 6 copies of a card in his deck. And it was one of those, what do you do at that point? Because he's already played how many games now, but luckily, like I said, the rule book was very cut and dry. It's right there in there. What saved him is he actually came to me and self-identified as saying, hey, there's a problem with my deck. I wasn't caught beforehand. What happens now? And the rule book was very clear because he came to me with the problem. It was a lesser punishment than if it was caught by someone else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so what was the actual punishment that the rulebook told you to give?
So the rulebook was he just lost that round entirely, and he just had to correct his deck before the next game.
With that, I think he got put out of the top 8 because of that mistake.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
It did. I did go back and look, and yeah, because of that, he did get pushed out of the top 8.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel bad that he lost out on the top 8, but there are consequences, even inadvertently cheating like he did, which no fault to him. It was an honest mistake. It wasn't intentional. But yeah.
Yeah.
If just to clarify, if he was caught cheating by somebody else, like it was brought to my attention by somebody else, rule book was he would have been instantly disqualified from the entire tournament.
Oh wow. Yeah, I mean that makes sense, right?
So what I'm hearing is you think I keep eyeing your opponent, to the opponent. You immediately called you at first. Okay.
Yeah, in this case, they didn't even call me over. The guy self ended his I'm blanking on
Conceded.
the turn. Yes, thank you. He conceded the round, and then him and his opponent came up to me and said, "Here's what happened."
Mhm.
So they didn't even call me over to make the judgment at the table. He conceded first, and then he turned himself in.
Mhm.
Which it was weird because for those of you who don't know, when you're running a tournament on the computer, it shows me almost in real time what's happening with the players. And so I started the round, and within 2 minutes, it immediately popped up on my screen that he lost. I'm like, how do you lose in 2 minutes? And it wasn't like an intentional draw, because when they intentionally draw, the screen tells me it's an intentional draw. It was marked out as he lost 2 games already.
Hmm.
It's like, how do you lose 2 games in 2 minutes?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you looks like you did the right thing. He wasn't. I mean, he was upset that it happened, but from what I could tell, he was like, "Look, this is the right call." And
Yeah,
thankfully, I think he had to travel too, so it's not like he showed up and then had to just go home immediately. He could still play.
yeah, I
he could
think
still
he would.
play.
I think he was like from the Trio Tenducti area. No, some people. No, it might have been the Trio crowd. We had a bunch of people from Ohio.
We did.
Hmm.
And then what saved on the other call I had to make, which was a judgment call on how cards interacted with each other. What helped on that scenario is there was a lot of people talking about the exact same scenario online. And so there was a lot of online support for the ruling that I made. So, because one of the guys questioned it afterwards, he's like, "Are you sure that's how it should have been?" And I showed him where I was coming from. I showed him how I came to that, and he agreed. He's like, "Well, yeah, I can see how other people make that same ruling, so I guess I'm gonna live with it."
Yeah, because that's one of the things that I can't remember. I think it's one of the kings that for a while Pixie Born got wrong too, and it's also one of the kings that like in other games it would have worked the other way, but it's how
Yeah.
we're kind of choosing to have the stuff interact.
Hmm.
Yeah,
So it was nice having all those resources available to me, and the fact that I spent I don't know how much time researching the rules of Lorcana and different scenarios online, that when that happened, I'm like, wait a minute, I just read this scenario online, so I can fall back on that as well.
Hmm. Nice. Well, the hard work you put in paid off.
It did. The only thing I would say for a future tournament is I need more experience working with the program online, just to understand it better. Uh, I think that would help to keep the tournament flowing smoother. But the way that we had the tournament laid out with 3 rounds, then take a lunch break, come back and do the last rounds, I think that worked out very well for the tournament. We even had people commenting that they really appreciated that lunch break.
Yeah, I think for us, so we had 5 rounds before Top Cut. So
Mhm.
the if we would have had 6, it would have made it a lot longer. I feel like, and I don't know. I don't know if the lunch break would have been as appreciated because there were some people who were like, "I want to get out of here."
yeah, and it's one of the calls that like um I did how Chicago did it too, because also like especially how many rounds we were doing. If there was if you were locked all 3 rounds, which we had one person do like at that point, to go home unless you're trying to actually think you can get a couple extra wins to try to get better at the party, but you're guaranteed not to make top 8 at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we did have that one person drop out after the 3rd round, and I think it actually ended up hurting the tournament a little because the program, when it recognized that he dropped out when he did, it didn't recognize that he dropped out until 1 round later.
Within the commenting with that program.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a program issue.
I guess we're going to say Melee, because everyone knows that the official software.
Yeah.
So any final thoughts on the tournament itself and your experiences?
I think, I don't know, maybe we want to talk a short segment called The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, just about the...
I was gonna move into that. I just wanted final thoughts on just your experiences first.
No, the only thought I have not said revolves to what we're about to talk about.
Okay, then let's move into the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we've mentioned it before, so we'll start with this: is groups traveling together. What's the good and the bad and the ugly of that? I know, Matt, you have a lot of opinions of this, so we'll start with you.
So, like, do you want me to say good, King, or do you want me to say both good and bad right now?
Just,
okay.
We'll just start with everything.
With the good thing is, like, friendship. Like, traveling with your friend, having people to go with. I know a lot of times it's, like, really nervous to go to unfamiliar tours and not know anyone. Like, I really liked it when I went to Terrain Factory, Rat Championship Step, and Mike was there, so I could talk to Mike and stuff. And it was really nice to chill with him. But when I went to Chicago, unfortunately, due to you guys not getting tickets and going, I traveled to the event by myself. Luckily, there were people I knew from other events that I could chat with and talk to, and also, like, I had some friendly opponents I talked to later in the day, too. So, but it is nice to have those people.
Mm-hmm.
The bad thing is that, like, but typically what we experienced, the group that came to Altor that traveled together, they had about like 4 to 6 Ursula already in the group promo code that they burned, and like a few playmats. And so basically you just have the group of people running to all these tours, gathering up all the prizes. So it's kind of like, and these people, because like they're dedicated to the game, and the trading card game do have a lot of skill to them. So the more dedicated you are to the game, the more likely you are to win it. And so that is basically not good for a lot of local stores because you have a lot of out of towners showing up, and just taking all the prizes. But also another thing is too, like these people like we go to this event and we're just like, well, Mike doesn't have a promo code, and Mike is playing at me, and I'm like, oh, I'm the gonna concede. And then Scott, you're just like, oh, I got a promo code from that bet. Mike didn't get one. I'm paired against Mike. I'm not gonna concede. And like I had people. We didn't have that specific issue with the group that came to Alto. They were very friendly, very nice. But I did, but I did hear about other stores or other people talking about how at one store, the person who won had at least 4 opponents that immediately that he traveled with who always had the card that could see to him. So he actually did not have to play any games until he got the top 8. So he actually only had to win 1 game.
Jeez. And that's kind of crazy. I mean, those are really nice friends because entries for these tournaments are anywhere from like $25 to $35. So yeah, I mean,
well, but also like you can still make it no matter how many players there are. you can still make top 8 in most. Yeah, you can make top 8 by losing one match.
Sure.
Either way. So like having Gati to if you each pick a person like, hey, if we pair against him, we're gonna get to him.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why which you see a lot in like Magic tournaments and stuff. Like it's not good, it's not fun.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I mean, so the bad part about that is that you could have someone bring a very specified deck that's like, so if you think about the meta as a whole, and you know that certain decks are going to perform well across all of the different types of decks that people could bring. Let's say there's like 3 different types of decks, but I could bring a 4th kind of rogue deck that performs good against 2 of those 3, but really gets mopped by one of them. And if I'm missing, like if I'm getting these guaranteed concedes, like I can kind of find my way up into the top 8 and not have to play a bad matchup until I get there.
But also though, you look at seeding, so you're not playing the game, you can observe the other people playing, you can figure out what deck people are playing, you get an idea of what you're facing. Most of the people already know that after like 2 rounds, like 2 or 3 rounds, roughly what decks are gonna be in the top 8. They won't know for sure, but they have a rough idea, and that gives these people who are not likely playing because they always get seeded or they intentionally draw more opportunities for them to figure out like, okay, this person's playing this person's playing this. I know if I'm playing against them, this is what I need to mulligan for.
Yeah. So yeah, I didn't hear any of that stuff about people traveling. I mean, the one thing about just the feeling of having people come to your store for one event and then never show up again kind of feels bad when it's like you want to build community, we want to have more people showing up. You know, we live in a smaller town. I mean, Scott, you don't live here, but Matt and I do. And so it's hard to find players sometimes. So it's sad to be like, oh, there's 24 out of 24 seats signed up, and 18 out of those 24 are occupied by people who will never show up to our store again.
Yeah, so I figured out. So this is how I'm going to start doing it now. So they give us like roughly a month, maybe like 20 days, with information about the tournament before we have to officially put it on Miiway. So my plan is I am changing how Auto does it. So if you, in the course of a set, if you show up to pre other events or other league night at a door, you are qualified for early registration to the set championship. So basically, I'm gonna like you go to pre-event, you let me know you're interested in the set championship. As soon as I make that event, I immediately enrolling you into that event.
Mm-hmm.
Because right now the rule for the sword are we have to have it published on Miiway by X date. So the nothing saying that I can't have people pre-sign up before then or have people sign up before then.
Mm-hmm.
I just have to have a minimum of 8 people by X and have it on Miiway by X date.
Yeah.
So, and also like we're not gonna fill out the whole store. So there's still gonna be opportunities for out of town people to get on Miiway and come to these events. But it guaranteed that the local people at the store are gonna be there.
Have some seats, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so I will say though, it is good, for me coming in third to know that, oh, I played against, it was only 18 people who were playing, but I played against people who were traveling around, and so these people are serious about it. So I feel better about my, accomplishment. I didn't win, but I can at least say like, oh, I tested my skill against people who are also good and take this game seriously.
I also want to say I did call it. I did not get a chance to re-listen to the last set championship episode we did, but I did say I'm like, oh, we'll work. We can get you in the top 4, Mike, or at least top 8.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it felt good. It was, I mean, yeah. The play-by-play was basically I played three. Overall, I played four Emerald Steel Bucky discards, and the first time I played it, the guy beat me 2-0. Then the second time I played Bucky Steel, I beat this person. This is Brian, who ended up getting second place overall. But that win put me into top 8. And then I played against the guy who beat me 2-0 with Bucky Steel, and I got revenge, and I beat him 2-0. And then I got played against Brian again, and he beat me 2-1. I was like, so it was like a story, anime-esque style of like
Yeah.
revenge, and so it was fun. Yeah. So anyway, I'm glad there was a high level of competition. Like I'm glad that it wasn't just like, oh, we're only gonna have 8 people, and 5 of these people have never played before. um,
So did you guys hear anything about any negative experiences at other places that you want to talk about?
Yeah, so what I heard today on Discord, um, with it, we're recording it on Sunday the 28th, the last day of the event. One tour 3 hours before the event decided to ban Bucky. Like, not that say, hey, we're gonna honor the new errata, that straight up banned it. With I understand why they did that, but if you're gonna do that, you give them more than a 3 hour notice. Also, you can't do that in a official Ravenburg Pride supported tournament. You have to follow the rules of the game, and Bucky is still a legal card in the game.
yep.
Like this
Wow.
is how you get when like all the comments on Reddit were just like report it. We report the tour. Like this is not what you it. I understand why the tour would think that Gek is a problem, and I understand the desire wanting to give the competition to make the competition a little bit healthier, but just straight up banning a card that it's illegal and that is not how to do a official tournament. A lot of third party tournaments do stuff like this all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But because the toad actually getting Ravenburg product to hand out, they can't do that.
Yeah, that's super sketchy. Um, you almost feel like somebody like called in a favor for that, because why does the store owner care necessarily? Um,
Well, so one, if the toad owner is actually paying attention to the game, I can see that. And maybe I don't know, maybe the toad owner went to a tournament the week before and watched the Bucky and is like, you know what, I'm done with this card.
Screw this guy. Yeah, it, um, that's really unfortunate. I feel like I don't know. I don't even know what I would do at that point. I would probably ask for a refund, even if I
Yeah.
wasn't playing Bucky. I don't think that's fair to the people that were going to.
If I were playing Bucky, I would be upset and probably ask for a refund. If I wasn't playing Bucky, I would complain and report the store, but I would still play.
Well, it would be fun to play in a Bucky-less, yes, tournament.
Well, that's basically how it's going to be for us in Canada.
Yeah. So, the one thing I heard was another. So, Scott, you had to deal with a cheating issue, but unintentional. This one I heard, and the owner, I think it was the owner, or at least someone who was judging or had official say on and could give out store bans, posted something on a Facebook group, basically saying that some people came to this guy and said, "Hey, such and such player looks like they're doing something fishy. So can you look into it?" And they didn't get to look into it until after the tournament, I believe. But either way, this guy posted a video on YouTube and on Facebook, which was then taken down. But it did list. It had had the video with like timestamps of like here's where the player is doing this, and what the player was doing was like 100% intentional, manipulating your deck to get an advantage. the gameplay, accidents, you could argue is like, oh, maybe this player made a mistake, but this player was caught on camera rifling through his deck, and all of his cards were upright, in the right direction, and he found a card and then purposely flipped it upside down. And and it wasn't just any random card too. It was Beast Tragic Hero, which was a card that you probably want to know where it is in your deck, so you could plan around it. And I think he was playing Bucky discard. The other thing he did, he found a Bucky and put it to the bottom, and then the way that he shuffled his deck guaranteed that Bucky would end up near the top, and didn't offer his opponent a cut. And so this guy got banned from the store for 6 months, and then because the video got posted online, supposedly he had threatened legal action against the store. So the store just okay, we're in the business of running a game store, not fighting lawsuits, so we don't really care that much. You're going to be banned for life instead. And they just took down the videos. So
yeah,
there are cheaters out there. There are cheaters out there. I think it's hard. I was not actively observing my opponents to see if they were cheating. I think I went on the honor system. And part of that is just nerves. I'm just trying to think about my next play. So it's annoying that has to be part of the environment. I need to be watching out for my opponent intentionally cheating.
Yeah.
From my point of view, because I'm standing there doing an overview of every game all at one time, it's very hard to rely on just the one person paying attention to everything. That's why paying attention to your opponent is probably one of the best things players can do to make sure the game is, one, fun, and two, is played correctly.
Yeah.
The judge is not going to be able to catch everything just on their own. It's up to the players to help out as well.
Remember, kids, never turn your back to your opponent. Always advice for any folding competition. Honestly, you should be cutting people deck. Even if it's not I don't trust you, it's just a good habit to be in.
I actually, now that we're talking about that, keep going. I'm gonna look something up.
Also, a reminder: you can double people decked. It can be. It's a little awkward, and I know sometimes that make people uncomfortable. But that is a tool you have available. That be very careful when you do it.
Don't riffle shuffle.
Yet. Oh my god! That's how you get a fight.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I think long story short, there was definitely some ugly that got brought out. The sad part, I don't know if it's sad, but these cards are even worth significantly less than the Stitch promos were. So people are risking their own personal integrity and everything else for a couple $100, not even. So
yeah, but still, you pay $25 for these events, and then
but your name. I mean, I think that's very short-sighted. But obviously, people who cheat are not thinking about the long term. But you just don't want to have that carrying that around. So. Yeah. Scott, you find what you were looking for, or?
No. I'll look it up and we can talk about it later.
All right. Well, I have to get going soon, so we should move on to a real quick last topic, which is talking about the next set championships for Shimmering Skies. They announced the promo for that, and that card is also...
Oh, hold on. I just found out what I was looking for. We were talking about the offering to have your opponent cut your deck. It's actually in the rules that says you have to offer your deck to be cut.
Yeah.
It is stated in the rule. That's what I was, because I wanted, before I said that, I wanted to make sure that it was actually in the rules. And yes, it is.
Mm-hmm. But obviously people are like, oh, wait, whoops, I accidentally already drew. Is it okay? And then, oh, yeah,
nope,
sure, it's fine.
You put everything back, you retouple, and you give the cut.
I agree.
Yep.
That's what you should do. But I think there's the social pressure of like someone being like, "Come on, man."
That
And
no, that is how people manipulate you.
I
They
know.
use total pressure and total cuts and norms to use you. You do not stand up to that peer pressure, kids.
Yes.
You
Don't.
do the right thing.
Yeah. Um,
Okay. So go ahead and
yeah.
like
So
as you were saying.
the card is going to be Mirabel Madrigal. I'm going to put it up on the screen here.
And before we actually get into the details of the card, they announced that there are going to be 8 copies of this promo.
Yeah.
With it, I think it's great. It's like I said, like the last that championship episode, that having the doubling the amount of card to the top 8 is going to help. One, it's going to get people to let the desire to go to all these events and get more. It get more people walking away with these prizes, so people feel happier. Like I would have. Yeah, so like I didn't get any from the last set, but I would have gotten one because of that.
Mm-hmm. Do you
And
know
so
if they are saying that stores who only have 8 people show up, or will also still be giving away 8?
probably. I
Okay.
mean, it would make sense by a minimum of 8, but also like to be an organized play store and to qualify for the championship, you only need to have 12 dedicated room for 12 players.
Okay. So you have to
Like
have room for 12, though.
yeah,
Okay.
like
because I've heard of stores capping it at 8, but I don't know if that was legal or not.
well, for
tournament
the hot,
can be capped at 8.
yeah, the tournament can be capped at 8.
Organized play store.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, because
I was just gonna say, there's some drama around having 8. Some people are saying that you're gonna tank the value of the cards, but
yeah, I mean but like we already saw that the last one, the value went down, and also in that case too, they should like be mad every time they add a new store to the set championship because more stores ran Ursula's Return Championship than the championship.
mm-hmm.
They added more hobby stores to the program, so my guess is probably Kimura Kai's is also gonna have more that championship. So they're already every time they add a new store, there's more in the market. Again, lowering the value of the cards. So if people really want to get so like this is not winning battle. Like overall I think it is the bet for the game. It is gonna hurt the collectors, but like Primal.
Yeah, I feel like I hope with the gateway, we're gonna have way more people come, and people are gonna get more involved. So like this is gonna be a drop in the bucket. Doubling the amount. We're gonna have more than double the amount of people in a year. So
Hopefully,
that's my optimistic thought about this. But
and let's get straight into the card because we're running out on time for tonight. So, as we said, it is Mirabel Madrigal, Family Gatherer. She is a 5-cost inkable card. She has a 5 strength and a 5 willpower. She is Storyborn, Hero, and Magical. She has the special ability of Not Without My Family. You can't play this character unless you have 5 or more characters in play. And she is the first card where her lore value is 5. And it is presented in just having a single lore symbol, all black, with the number 5 inside of it. She has the flavor text of "There's nothing we can't accomplish together," and she is done by Emily. I can't make out what the last name is for the artist.
what an A.
Yeah, Emily A something. So.
Oh no, here it is.
Card?
I don't know how to pronounce it, but let me send it over to the chat real quick so you can take a look at it. But Mutu Report actually have the audit name Knight and Weatherbull.
So Emily Abedira. I'm sure that's not right, but yeah,
Works.
I think this card is crazy. I don't think so. You have to already have 5 characters in play, which
I'm
can
glad
happen, but it's just
it-
very hard.
I'm glad that they did an Amber because I think Amber have a lot more better setup for that. I like how they did the 5th death. They called it associated with 5. First called with 5 lore, 5 strength, 5 will, cost 5. My only issue with it is they did not make the number 5 in the deck.
I agree with that completely. Should have been 5 out of 204.
Yeah.
I think
But they couldn't make it the 5th card in the set. Because that would have been 6 5s on the card. This way there are 5 5s.
Fine. I think it's awesome thematically. Just that idea of like what is her, power. Like all of her other family actually has powers. Hers is like being the glue that keeps her family together to bring everyone. So yeah, it'd be very interesting to see if there's you don't even have to be a Madrigal deck to play her, but you could have maybe make her one of and play with the Alma Madrigal to find her.
Yeah.
And so you don't need to necessarily. She is inkable, so you can always have more. But yeah, I'm trying to like work in my head how fast is the fastest you could get this out? Like you'd play 0 to hero, and maybe on turn 3, because you play 1 character, then 2 characters on 2 turn. But just having cards in hand, you might not have enough.
So turn 4. Okay. Yeah, I think turn 4 would probably be the earliest you could actually get her out. Because like you play a 1-drop on turn 1, you play 2 1-drops on turn 2, you play 2 more characters on turn 3, and then you won't have enough lore to actually get her out any cheating way.
You can use 0 to hero.
But how? That's not a song though. That's the accent.
It is a song.
Oh, here's a song.
Yeah, and so your one drop is your Cinderella. Your 2, one of your 1-drops has to be the Cinderella singer, or you could have a 2. Yeah, there's no other one drop singers.
So if you're
to get her out that early, your hand has to be a very precise.
Yeah, it's going to be empty for sure.
You need your opening hand would have to be 5 1-drop character, 0 the hero,
and just draw inkable each turn. Yeah.
Yeah.
But questing for you're questing for 10 the next turn. So yeah, I don't think you're going to see that, but yeah, ultimately, I don't think she's going to see much play in a competitive format where there's targeted removal. But if somehow we get into a mass like ward or something that allows you to generate like token kind of characters or something else like that.
So I think
maybe.
Yeah, I think right now. I think if you're doing a Mount to Go deck, or if you're doing a maybe Rock Tip, I think those are the 2 decks I'm seeing right now that fit in.
Yeah.
All right. Final thoughts on the card overall? Good, bad?
I'll try to play a 1 of in a deck where I could tutor it, maybe in that fabled Amber Sapphire deck that I will eventually build. Have Merlin find her.
I think it's interesting. I think it's gonna be one of the cards that I think right now people are kind of just like meh on, but it's gonna be like when someone figure out how to break the cards, it's going to be golden.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So.
Well, that's all the time we got for tonight. Join us next time, Illumineers, as we dive deep into another Adventures into the Ink. Until then, adventure awaits.